Hello and good evening from Rwanda's capital here in Kigali, and many thanks for joining us on this 13th day of November. These are the top stories today. This Saturday, local government elections were held in all parts of the country, where Electoral College in each district elected 5 women representing 30% of the district council committee. Tourism sector is slowly but steadily recovering from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, especially in Karongi district, where sector players say that the industry has reached 70% of its recovery compared to where it was during the pre-COVID-19 period. Now, coffee registered over 61 billion Rwandan francs in revenue to the national coffers in 2020-2021 fiscal year. Tonight, we'll tell you the history of this valuable cash crop that became the first to be grown in Rwanda before other types arrived. It's a weekend, quite a number of things happening. There is Watch Musica that just ended there. We'll have Kigali Fiesta going on at Kigali Arena if you're in Kigali. And later on, we'll be having RwandaTV Moto. So it's an exciting one. I trust you're doing well. I'm Ethan Teshobia. You're watching RwandaTV News live from Kigali. Across the country, elections were held on Saturday to put in place the 5 women supposed to occupy 30% of the district advisory council seats. And those elected were urged to work hard to help girls and women to develop at the local level. Sergeant Nora kicks off tonight's bulletin with this very report.
The candidates campaigned for votes in front of members of sector advisory councils who would be the ones casting their ballots.
You men present should vote for me because I'll teach your wives to make more money and bring it home to improve all of your welfare.
Those casting their votes had very specific requirements of their chosen candidates. This district is home to one of the towns that are meant to become one of the secondary cities after Kigali. So there is much to be done.
Women were historically marginalized, unable to go out and work. But now things have changed, so there is a lot we expect from them as our representatives.
Muhanga district is made up of both urban and rural areas, and the vast majority of people live in rural ones. So they need to see that the officials we are electing consider them too. Those casting their ballots were allowed to select the 5 women they believe will perform the best on the advisory council, and those elected vowed not to disappoint those who have put their confidence in them.
I know the difficulties vulnerable women face, and working with my colleagues, we will be able to help them develop. I assured those who voted for me that we're going to work together to do advocacy for the development of Kamonyi and do our jobs as advisors and playing our part in the decision-making process to reflect the wishes of the people. There were many things that were yet to conclude, be it on the economic or social fronts, and we intend to resume those efforts and also set new objectives so that we can attain the goal we set for ourselves.
Government officials are reminding the newly elected members of the district advisory councils just how important they are to development. You know that the advisors are the ones that vote on the budget, the district's action plan, and provide advice on major decisions in the district. That is why we ask them to put in the effort and time like they have committed to do. On Tuesday, the 8 remaining regular seats on district advisory councils will also be vied for, and members will be elected to occupy them.
Thank you, Serge, for that report. Now, across the country, tourism sector is slowly but steadily recovering from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, but especially in Karongi district, where sector players say that industry has reached 70% compared to where it was during pre-COVID-19 period. We have this report with Innocent Mugabo with the details.
On the roads around the shores of Lake Kivu, we find tourists Anne and Jens riding their bicycles. This is the first time to be in Rwanda from their home country, Sweden. They are happy that life is slowly returning to normal in the tourism industry, in addition to the services of various hotels and tourist destinations.
Yeah, we are welcome in the reopening, of course. We are both vaccinated. I'm a pediatric surgeon, so I'm working next week at the University Hospital in Kigali with the Mission Martina. So we managed quite a lot in 1 week. And we return to Kigali tomorrow. You have a fantastic hotels. We are both very taken by it, surprised. Very good service, very fine location and hospitality. We feel very welcoming here.
Yes, it is. First time in Rwanda, first time in the Lake Kivu area. I mean, from a riding perspective, it's very challenging because of the 1,000 hills. Noticed and received wherever we go is beyond expectations, to be honest. I mean, it's really, really good. In every possible positive aspect you can imagine. It's been very, very good. We've been so well looked after, it's unimaginable. I can only give my best recommendations for the rest of the world. Come here and visit. It's great, to be honest.
Kubahiriza amabwiriza ya COVID bihagaze neza ko tuba dufite sanitizer mu modoka udupfukamunwa.
Compliance with COVID-19 guidelines is in place. We have hand sanitizers and face masks. Karongi is one of the most popular tourist destinations. Visitors to the area had reduced and some activities were suspended due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Nowadays, that services with tourism-related services being given a green light to resume business, service providers point out that the number of tourists has risen again. As COVID reduced its intensity, they allowed us to resume in June 2020. Visitors used to be few that RDB required us to advertise so that people in Rwanda can come and visit. And they came in big numbers since we also slashed prices. So from that time, they have kept on coming, now reaching about 70%. Looking at how the hospitality sector was backsliding, we decided to take up measures, which also involved working in difficult times. We are lucky that our clients spread positive messages about us when they go back home. The fact that the area is surrounded by a tarmac road, with hotels building up every day, also attracts many tourists. On the other hand, the director of Karongi District Private Sector Federation PSF, Abimana Matthias, points out that there is a need to consider other tourism-based activities so that people who visit the area have different options for what they want to visit. People started up a project of mountain hiking. There is also a coffee plantation where tourists visit and get to know how the plant is improving the lives of the people and the economy of the country. This will gradually increase the tourism component. With the number of those infected by the COVID-19 virus declining in Rwanda, the infection rate is still below 0.5%, and authorities at various levels urge everyone to continue implementing safety guidelines for the pandemic to be eradicated. Service providers in the tourism sector are also required to remain cautious as they welcome categories of people from all walks of life, which would give a gap to the spread of the pandemic. Innocent Mogabo, RTV News.
Thank you, Innocent, for that report. Now, in more stories, officials and residents of various parts of Kigali this Saturday took part in the monthly communal umuganda, locally known as umuganda, focusing on garbage collection and environmental protection activities in the city of Kigali. The event was attended by some members of the Rwanda Environment Management Authority and the Ministry of Environment. Some of the participants, especially the youth, noted that taking part in umuganda was a matter of pride to them. Umuganda has been suspended across the country since the first case of COVID-19 pandemic was recorded in the country. The Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Environment, Patrick Kadera, says it is clear that the communal work is needed, but resuming it across the country will result from the decision that will be based on the analysis by the Ministry of Health. Now, coffee is the first cash crop that was grown in Rwanda. After 120 years, coffee has continued contributing to the country's economic development, especially in the 2020-2021 fiscal year, where it registered more than 61 billion Rwandan francs in revenues to the national coffers. Giselle Mugwaneza tells us the history of coffee and how it has contributed to the national development.
At Mibidizi in Rusizi district is one of the places where coffee was first grown in Rwanda. The coffee plant was introduced in Rwanda by German missionaries in the early 1900s.
The missionaries arrived in Rwanda on the 21st of January 1903, but they started planting coffee in 1905.
After getting used to coffee, local farmers came to realize its importance.
During the harvest season, they would put the production on the scale and give us a lot of money. After getting the money, we could manage to buy clothes and eat well and feel free in everything.
Coffee growing later spread to the entire country as more and more people realized the opportunities it offered.
Coffee growing contributed in my progress. I have a wife and children. We are all living a good life because of coffee. I built that house because of growing coffee. I have no problem. I gained 900,000 Rwandan francs this year. I believe that next year I will gain not less than 1 million.
After the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, positive impacts from coffee were experienced, including boosting the country's development.
I can say the development have been remarked at the level of processing. Before 1994, coffee have been processed in a traditional way, but in the years of 2000, we started to process coffee by using coffee washing station, and the product coming out is fully washed coffee. I can say 8% of the total production is fully washed coffee. Is being exported in the form of fully washed coffee, green coffee. And these have been remarked by increase of price. I can compare the price of ordinary coffee, which was 1.7 USD per kg. Nowadays we are having average price of 3.64 USD per kg of green coffee exported.
Coffee is now processed in Rwanda and is grown by both men and women. It was a crop that was particularly planted by men. But today, a Rwandan woman to engage in coffee growing, it is her way to change her life. We're people that have international knowledge about coffee growing and processing. Another thing is that when you train a woman, you're training the country. The message is delivered to everyone effectively. You will find that women that engage in coffee growing, there are more among them that have progressed. There are cooperatives, there are those that have training classes like we do. There are those that process the coffee, but I remember that back in 2009, you would find that I was the only barista in coffee sector because people used to think that it's a hard and tiring job to do. But now we're so many. For a woman to engage in coffee services, it is a thing they currently understand well. And I would like to encourage others to make it their own because it does not need more much and we are capable of doing it. As time goes by, the contribution of coffee in the country's economy has been growing. More than 11.5 billion Rwandan francs was gained from coffee production in 1995. And as of the end of 2020-2021 fiscal year, 61 billion Rwandan francs had been registered in revenue. Currently, more than 400,000 people are engaged in coffee growing, and the country's vision is to boost its production and quality further. Giselle Mugwaneza, RTV News.
Thank you, Giselle, for that comparison. Now, a neighborhood in Nyamirambo, Kigali suburb, was severely affected by the heavy rainfall on the early hours of Saturday before dawn, damaging houses and other forms of property. Sejanori reports.
The residents say the cause of the problems they are now facing stems from the road construction activities in the area that blocked the water drainage system, triggering the floods.
Those stones have completely blocked the drainage system, and when it rains, all the water rushes into our homes. Everything has been flooded, even the latrine. That is the problem we're facing in our area. All of my household utensils have been swept away, save for the jerry cans because we were able to grab them. Even the mattress is gone and the house is destroyed. You saw it yourself.
The residents are now demanding for compensation.
First, we want them to clear the drainage system by removing those stones and letting the water flow again. We have lived here for years and never had we been flooded like this until by the local and the settlement level.
Kigali city authorities say the matter is being addressed. We are working with the local authorities so that those in need of shelter are facilitated. The reconstruction efforts will begin immediately because the construction company responsible is to start right away, and after the property loss has been tallied, it will be compensated straight away. Kigali authorities are yet to release figures from other areas around the city where the heavy rainfall is said to have caused damage.
That's all we had for you tonight. On behalf of the entire news production team, many thanks for your company tonight. Stay well and safe. Up next is RwandaTV Moto Moto. I'm Ethan Tashobia. Stay safe.